All right, back here on Inside Wrestling Radio. On the Delta telephone, of course, we have Luke Gallows, who will be out at the Exchange Building here in Lawrence tonight for the big Christmas for Kids wrestling event. And, of course, you can follow Luke Gallows on Twitter at Real Luke Gallows. And he has the Facebook page, the official Luke Gallows, and just Luke Gallows there on Facebook. Luke, man, before we get into tonight's big event, if we can really quickly, you and I were talking before the interview about the big nightmare from Nigeria. Tell the people who may not be as familiar with that a little bit about what happened over in Nigeria when you guys were over there.
Yeah, I've been, like you said, going all over the place. Very fortunate with all my international travel and stuff like that. And Nigeria ended up being my first kind of little trip to wrestling hell. You always hear about stuff like that. But basically, we got over there and the rebels bombed the UN building in the middle of our tour, and the promoter, who was kind of in bed with the government in a crooked fashion that we found a lot more out about once we were home, they disappeared, and they left us kind of stranded in Lagos, Nigeria, in a hotel that was guarded with barbed wire and machine guns. We were stuck there for 4 days with no basic communication with the outside world, no word from any of the people who had brought us in or who were supposedly taking care of us. And then out of the blue, they showed up and basically forced me to fly to Abuja, where the bomb had gone off, and do a match inside of an empty arena for a general. And, and then that caused me to miss my flight to get back, and then caused the rest of my crew that I brought with me to miss all of our flights. And so I had to buy some new flights, and I ended up getting quite angry with the whole situation, and found myself outside of Lagos Airport with a base full of machine guns because I had enough of the great Power Udi and the promoters who had brought me there. And when I stood up for myself, I found out that when there's 10 guys with machine guns and you don't have one, you don't really have a leg to stand on. So it was not a good time for me, but lessons learned, and just one of those things about being a cowboy and traveling the world in this business. So you got to love it.
Yeah, you just never know what you're going to run into. You had mentioned something to me about the guy there, the general, you having to work in front of him in an empty arena. I imagine that was something to see, right?
Oh, yeah, it was absolutely brutal. Please don't go out and try to search for the footage of that match. It's probably one of the worst ones on tape that you'll find of me. But basically, I knew that there was a plane waiting for me that I was missing by being forced to do this match. And, there was nobody there. And it was just a bad situation all the way around. And that's, I've never been treated that bad on a wrestling tour, but, I take it on the chin for myself. What upset me was that I had, former WWE Tag Team Champion Domino and another good friend of mine who some of you have seen wrestle in South Carolina before, Micah Taylor, who was a developmental standout and also wrestles internationally. But to put those guys kind of in jeopardy as well did not fit well with me at all. So it ended up being, like I said, a very bad situation. If you want to hear it in detail, the AOW podcast that Cole Cabana does, Domino and I both cover it in our podcast. They're very colorful and quite entertaining, but the full story is definitely on both of those.
Yeah, and it's a interesting listen for anybody who hasn't heard the whole story. You really need to check that out because there was a lot more to it than what we've just scratched the surface on here today. Luke Gallows, man, you're coming to Lawrence, South Carolina tonight, man. How you feeling about that?
I feel great. I love South Carolina. I love being out in front of the great fans. Fell in love with those guys, all you guys up here when I was coming through doing Festus. So my biggest supporters were in South Carolina. But, a lot of people don't know this, but this is a personal thing for me. I got a 4-year-old son here at home, and I think that the Toys for Kids drive is a really, really great thing. But, on a personal level, Gunner. Gunner, in the last year, has had a meteoric rise, to the top of our business. And I think seeing a guy like that who has traveled the roads and earned a spot and done what he needed to do well, and a hometown guy doing well, I think is great. I got goosebumps talking about it right now because, I love to see people do well in this business who deserve it. But, on the contrary, what a lot of people don't know, and this isn't something for a wrestling angle or a story, is that I went down to TNA in the summer of this year. I hadn't attempted to go back to the WWE or go to TNA, but they called me up to come down and work a dark match with Eric Bischoff and some of the brass there see me, and I got in the ring with Gunner. And had a hell of a match. We tore into each other.
Yeah.
You can ask him about it. He remembers that match very well. He ended up doing like he seems to love to do, and a couple of underhanded tactics led to him defeating me. But I can handle a defeat. That doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. What does bother me is walking through the back and having Eric Bischoff look at me and say, that's what we're looking for. That's a big athletic man. You'll be hearing from us. And somehow in the interim, you know, my old friend Gunner, I don't hear from him for months and months. And TNA is no longer returning my phone calls. So now I'm spilling blood in Nigeria, in Australia, in India, in Japan, you know, keeping myself going. And I got a 4-year-old son at home looking at me going, Dad, do you think you're going to be able to beat Gunner? You think you're going to be able to beat Gunner? You're not on TV anymore. Look at Gunner. He's on TV. You know, Gunner used to play with my son. And it's kind of a slap in my face to know, you know, deep down that there's some kind of an issue there. There's some reason that I'm not in TNA wrestling right now. And I think that the source and the root of the problem lays right there with Phil, right there with Gunner. So, you know, I want everybody to be very entertained. I think it's going to be a great thing to come out and bring toys for the kids, but I'm coming after your ass, brother, and I mean that. So you got 6'7", 300 pounds, and a size 15 boot that can take your head clean off your shoulders, and a lot of pent-up aggression, because when you're flying down to Orlando and hanging out at Disney World, I'm bleeding my ass off in Nigeria to make a living to take care of the family. So this is a personal vendetta. This is a personal issue, and it's going to get very real tonight at the Exchange Building. So bring your children, have a good time, but you're going to see a fight.
Outstanding. Well, I tell you what, man, I, for one, am looking absolutely forward to that match. You guys, of course, will be the main event, so I'll have time after my match to go and sit down in the back and grab a nice cold water there and watch you guys tear into each other. Man, I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I had seen back a few months ago, or maybe, I'm not sure exactly when, so I know it's been earlier on, when you did go up to TNA and have that dark match there with Gunner. So it's interesting to hear the backstory on that, man, and interesting to see that it's going to play itself out right here in Lawrence tonight.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because it reminds me of a lot of the great interview guys I've talked about and heard in the past, but this isn't an interview. Like, I literally, before I got in the car and drove up here tonight, I kissed my son on the forehead and said, maybe you can beat him, Dad, use a gallows pole. And that was the last good thought that I had. And this whole drive up here and going to the gym today and seeing all the great people around town and stuff, I'm focused, man. Tonight I'm coming out of the gate. I think it's going to be a great show tonight. And I'm more excited about this match tonight than I've been in for any match I've had in the United States in the last year, for sure. And like I said, Gunner, it's personal, and I'm coming after you, brother.
Awesome. And I tell you what, the fans here in Lawrence are really excited. We've been promoting this thing since really back in July. We started in on it with some video stuff, and we've progressively through the months have done more and more. And yeah, man, the fans here in Lawrence, the people who have been getting in contact with us have been really interested to see what Luke Gallows and what Gunner is going to do, because usually, and no disrespect to these guys, because look, man, I'm a fan of Ricky Morton and all those old cats. But I tell you what, man, they had been on a few of the older shows, and we didn't kind of really want to go that way this time. We wanted to bring in some newer guys, some young blood, if you will. And the fans, man, the reaction has been astounding that you guys are coming to town, man. And I think that speaks to your talent and to the fact that people are ready to see some new stuff.
Well, I very much appreciate that. And personal vendetta aside, I really do believe that you're going to see two of the top performers at the top of their game in this business right now. I think that Gunner and I are going to tear into each other, and no matter how it goes, and I have a strong feeling about exactly how it's going to go, the people are going to get their money's worth. But, you know, I've done a lot of shows like that, too. I remember being a young guy and seeing guys who I'd seen when I was a real small kid, and they just wanted to come out and get a payday and kind of go home. But that's not the way I do things, man. I'm full tilt all the way. And, you know, tonight is personal. So I think that everybody was very pleased with the show tonight in Lawrence. I know that I'm very happy to be here, and I can't wait to get out and say hello to all you fans and then get in the ring and put my mind at ease and give myself a little bit of peace, because it's been bothering me for several months right now.
Outstanding. Well, it all ends tonight right there at the Exchange Club here in Lawrence, South Carolina. The big main event, Luke Gallows taking on Gunner from TNA. I'm looking forward to it, and I know all the fans are. We're all the way out of time here, Luke, but before we go, anything you want to get out there really quickly before we do, or any final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you to all my fans. Like we covered, you can follow me at Real Gallows on Twitter. Official Luke Gallows was my Facebook page, but thanks to all of you, it's maxed out. So I have another one now that's just regular Luke Gallows. So hit me up. Anybody who wants to book me can email bookbiglg@gmail.com, and I'm looking forward to see everybody tonight.
Very nice, man. Luke Gallows, man, thanks so much for coming on the radio with me. I greatly appreciate it. And listen, I want to have you on again in the future when we have more time to talk. There's a lot more I want to talk to you about, and a lot more I want to pick your brain about as far as some of the earlier stuff we was talking about the independent guys. Really think we could have an interesting conversation. So can we have you back on again in the future?
Definitely. I'm sure that we could, and I look forward to it.
Outstanding. I will see you in just a few minutes over at the Exchange Club. I'm on my way out the door here in just a few minutes to go over there myself. Glad to have you on, and look forward to seeing you a little bit later on tonight.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ricky Rigo. I'll see you tonight.
All right, bro. All right, that's going to do it for the interview portion of the program. We'll come back here to close the show next on Inside Wrestling Radio.